What's up, guys? Today I want to talk about a couple of really good artists that got lost completely under the shadow of Will Smith, or more accurately, DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Specifically, a couple artists featured on this compilation album right here, New York Philly Rap Connection on Word Up Records from 1986. Word Up Records, of course, is a record label that DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince were on before they signed to a major label. It was run by Lawrence Goodman and Dana Goodman. Lawrence Goodman is in the big hip-hop producer, LG the Teacher. I did like all the Philly stuff like the Hilltop Hustlers and Three Times Open, just about everybody out of there. And Dana Goodman was his brother. I'm assuming this is them on the cover there, but Lawrence Goodman looks a lot different, young here than I'm used to seeing him with the big beard and stuff these days. And I don't think I've ever even seen a picture of Dana Goodman before, so I'm not totally sure about that. But I assume this is them. So this is kind of a short album, which says something, because this is basically everything on Word Up Records that was not DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Once they started doing DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince records, everything else went out the door. And like if you look at their, the catalog of all the Word Up Records releases, it just immediately goes DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince all the way to the end, and then they signed to a major label, and that's it for Word Up Records. So there's only a couple of songs by a couple artists on this album because there's not much else. So first up are two songs by Roxanne Shante, and then those songs actually kind of came off of this album, the Def Mix Volume 1, and wound up on Pop Art Records. In fact, this album was on Pop Art Records, which makes sense because that was also Lawrence Goodman's label. One of those songs is Payback, and that's pretty dope, but really much more interested in pretty much all the other artists on this label because they're the ones who are exclusive. Obviously, Roxanne Shante went on to become Roxanne Shante. But you got a bunch of other guys here are not so well known. You got a couple groups. Shockwaves, they had a 12-inch out. In fact, the 12-inch they had out was on Word Up Records, and it is this song that's featured on this compilation. And pretty much the same can be said for Lord Supreme and DJ Groove. They have 3 songs in this compilation. They have one 12-inch, which is also on Word Up Records. 2 of these songs are on that 12-inch. That means one song is exclusive to this album. It's called Cold Trippin', and this album is the only place it exists. So, almost every record label has a compilation album like this. But what's interesting about this is it has so much exclusive stuff. Again, because just about everything that wasn't Will Smith just, boom, totally swept aside. So it only exists here. Theoretically, if they had gone whole hog into Will Smith, we'd probably have another Lord Supreme single. We'd probably have a Tommy T single, who I'm going to get to in a minute. And all these guys would be, more Shockwave material, and all these guys would be blowing up, and you have a more full roster. Yeah, the other guy who's on this compilation, because again, there's not that many people on here, is MC Tommy T. He has 2 songs, which, feels like that would have been one 12-inch, a 12-inch that never came out. So, in fact, his whole music career only exists on this album. He's done nothing else. He has no singles, he has no guest appearances, he has not on any other labels. This is it, this one compilation album. He's featured here. He probably would have had 12-inch, but he didn't, and that's it for him. Again, Lord Supreme and DJ Groove just had the one 12-inch, which is on here, plus the other song. Shockwaves only had one 12-inch, which is on here. So really, Roxanne Shante is the only artist on this album that took off in any capacity. DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince are not on here. This is basically, although they don't spell it out that way, they don't say, hey, this is our roster minus DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince. That's basically what the album is. It's everybody else. And the important thing about this, really, is that this is all pretty dope stuff. Admittedly, you look at these guys, and you can see why, DJ Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince were going to be big breakout stars. And these guys were not. They were doing good, run-of-the-mill, solid, stock hip-hop, but nothing that was going to make them, big celebrities. So I'm sure, you're Lawrence Goodman, you're looking like, wow, we got a star here. It made sense that they prioritized everybody else. I'm not saying, they made a huge mistake by going all whole hog into, Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble and all that, which really blew up for Word Up Records. They did the right thing career-wise. It's just a shame that all these guys wound up getting brushed aside. Because, again, they didn't have the star power, but they made some pretty dope stuff. Like Lord Supreme and DJ Groove, they're a lot like Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, minus, the whole kind of comic personality, the very humorous side of Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. These are much more kind of straightforward. They're doing, slightly more hardcore records. But, so one rapper, talking about his DJs, doing a lot of cuts. He's probably not as talented as DJ Jazzy Jeff. These cuts do sound a little bit more rudimentary and stuff. But, it's pretty dope. And these are, all 3 are dope songs. The one exclusive song on here called Cold Trippin', maybe not as good as the 2 that were released on the single, but it's close. It's close. This one's directed at a girl, he's sort of dissing the girl who he says is cold trippin'. And so, it's a little bit more kind of You know, it's not a love song or anything, but it doesn't go quite as hard as like Get Busy or something, which did come out on the 12-inch. Then MC Tommy T is like on the other side of that spectrum. You know, so where like Lord Supreme and DJ Groove were like the serious, straightforward Jazzy Jeff and Fresh Prince, Tommy T is like, you know, a comedy rapper almost, you know, maybe equivalent to like MC Singing Breeze or something like that. You know, I wouldn't quite say he's like a novelty joke act, but he's definitely doing funny songs. So he's got one song called My Sister the Trip, which is all about how crazy and bugged out his sister is. And he's got a song called The Munchies, which is very reminiscent of Just Buggin', with the bugging sounds on the chorus. It's a very similar tone to that. So these are much more jokey songs, but still pretty fresh, but, you know, hard to maybe take serious as a legitimate artist. Like, I don't know if you'd really be going around the block saying, yo, man, check out this awesome Tommy T single. But it is a lot of fun, and it does fit in really nicely on the compilation album, where, you know, you don't necessarily have to buy an album for MC Tommy T, but you can just kind of enjoy the craziness and the silliness within the context of all the rest of the music, which is a little bit more straightforward and a little bit more easy to take seriously. Fortunately, though, at least this album is not terribly rare. I mean, I've had it since, you know, I don't know, the 80s when I would just see it in stores in New Jersey, like mainstream cassette stores. There is also a vinyl version, although it doesn't have a picture cover. So not hard to find this album, but like these songs are not online. They're not talking about. These artists are like all completely, totally forgotten. And it's a shame because this is some raw, like this is 1986. So think of like big program beats and all that. So you might not be completely blown away by the production or anything like that, but it does sound good. It is quality stuff produced by Lawrence Goodman. I believe he produced everything, but, you know, I mean, like guys like DJ Groove might have, you know, added a lot of their own music to it and all, and he's certainly doing the cuts and all, so he's probably choosing the records he cut. So I don't know how much Lawrence Goodman was like the musical producer versus the traditional producers who funded the project and got everyone to the studio and all that. But basically, Lawrence Goodman projects, equivalent to classic early Hilltop Hustler, Roxanne Shante, Steady B kind of stuff. All on that kind of level, which is pretty solid, pretty dope, and especially now that it's a totally lost bygone era and we can't get any more of it. Back in the days, a lot of artists got kind of dismissed, written off for being kind of generic or not really exciting or crazy enough, and artists who were the most out there, everybody from like Redman to DOS Effects with a Gimmick or whatever it was, those were the guys who get blown up because they sound unique and different. Everyone was looking for the next like big thing, but because of that, just basic traditional dope hip-hop kind of got lost, and, you know, like starting in the 90s and everything, it became sort of the quest for the biggest gimmick rapper and that kind of stuff. So it's cool to go back now and to find the artists who weren't all gimmicky and out there and crazy, or just making dope hip-hop, and that's what this is. Just a really good, solid album of some pretty lost stuff. I'm going to play you one or two clips. Like a lot of this stuff is online and not that rare when it was released on the 12-inch, like the Shockwaves, like the Lord Supreme, Get Busy and all that. But the exclusive stuff, this album, the MC Tommy T and Cold Trip, and I'll play clips of those, because those are pretty dope, and so worth tracking down the album for if you can get it pretty cheap, and you should be able to.
When you begin to whine and pout, you claim that the way that I treat you is a crying shame. I'm sorry. Well, I hope you don't think that I'm the guy who will break down and start to cry, especially when we both know this is a game. Call my house each and every day is part of the game you always play. And I pretend I'm not at home, no matter how many times you ring my phone. Now this goes over what seems like eternity. It's just a matter of pride and dignity, because I know you're not really on the level. You have the mind and the soul of the devil himself. It's just as sneaky Konami. Your whole plan is to keep on driving me nuts, no matter what, and you almost had me, dear. But I am a man you cannot break, and as you can see, I won't tolerate all the games you seem to want to play. The only thing I can say is girl, you whole trip. Me and my lady was. Whole trip. I gave you everything you could ask for, girl. diamonds, pearls.
Hi there, big brother.
Mom!
You know what?
Mom, come get this girl!
You?
Mom!
I want to spend some time
Get
with
the hell out of here!
you.
Hey, Mom!
When you
Mom,
come downstairs,
reach under my
don't
mask and get
walk
this gun,
past
man.
my room.
Mom, man! Now my sister's a tip. I used to have her on my hip, but now I think the damn girl is shaped like flip. It's like a miner's whip. She need to grab a good grip before her brains just get it all together, slip. But they came home from school, found clothes and treads and blood written messages all through my spreads. The messages said something like "Go drop dead." Now you tell me if something's wrong with her head. I think somehow she slipped. Her girl got tipped. Her brain got nipped and accidentally crimped. Yeah, she tore from here. Back acts like a dip. And if you ask me, the girl was intentionally dipped. Out in the street screaming through the later I try to kick at the pop like it's really chopped from past 6 years. No, the girl ain't safe. Stayed up for so many nights that my eyes turned chase. When I was young, fell asleep and then I lost my life. Santa Claus Johnny Psycho with my neck was a knife. Now I'm serious when I say this young psycho is sick. Took her to 12 psychiatrists. They gave him the check. But I still wish her ready let me put her away. She'd never know the life of a regular day. She'd never give another dumb sucker the play, and I'll be willing to pay any price they say. Mom and Pop said they paid the bill by the hundred and thought the battle was over, and they were the ones who won it once she had a surprise. She was in disguise and came back home with those same old eyes. Munch. Tell me, do you ever get this feeling that just drives you nuts? It rumbles and it tumbles deep inside your guts. Happened to me one night while I was watching the tube. Yes, very abruptly and straight up rude. Grabbed myself a sandwich, I was already set. Rolling down my face came to beads of sweat. Started smelling kinda funky at a tray full of tub. When a bunch of little voices screamed, I want some grub.
Munchies.
Now I thought this was ignorant and straight up rude. For someone to play the joke on me while I was in the news. Stepped out the tub, threw a towel around my waist, and in my right hand had the Crest toothpaste. Yes, the Crest toothpaste. Occupied in one hand, in the other hand I had the tin Snoopy trash can. When my stomach got rowdy, started jumping my back. Like in the game of basketball, the ultimate hack. Took some time to realize, wasn't really surprised that I was dead in the middle of a
Munchie attack. Rockin' every time in the middle of a munchie attack. The ultimate hack. A munchie attack.
Now tears falling while I'm crawling, trying to reach the fridge. Was it about as far as